Welcome to another episode of Let's Play Planet Coaster. I am Solace of Arcanus Gaming, and we are working today on the Elements Park. So, quick overview there, you'll see I've done a bit of landscape painting to divide the areas up, make it slightly easier to work out where I'm going in the future. Today we are going to work on the Earth section. Just a quick reminder, we'll be doing Earth, Air, Fire and Water. I keep wanting to say Earth, Wind and Fire. And we're going to start with Earth. I've got some ideas for Air's architecture already. I've built some prototypical Asian-styled sort of, cliched Japanese building things. Uploaded a tea house to the Steam Workshop. It's got a lot of attention, which is nice. So, but Air's off in the far corner where I popped a floating island, so we want to fill in first. So I'm going to do Earth. Now, I did start on Earth before and built a big roller coaster and some buildings. Not very nice buildings at all, but... and then I moved the roller coaster like an inch and I couldn't put it back. And after about 2 hours of poking around, I realized that the roller coaster platforms that are adjacent to the thing, there's like a texture on them, that after I'd moved the roller coaster, they were left there, and you couldn't delete them, and you couldn't put anything on top of them. You couldn't terraform, you could terraform around them, but they stayed there. So that completely annihilated everything, and I had to go back and start again. As a result, I got to redesign how I wanted to do this. What we're doing here started off, it was going to be sort of a like marketplace area, like central focal point for a promenade and such. But it turns out I'm going to use it as a gateway entrance to one of the rides, because I'm going to do 2 roller coasters in Earth. The first one that we're working on today is going to be quite a casual coaster for families and stuff, because a lot of my other coasters I think are going to be quite intense and fearful and nauseating. This one, on the other hand, is going to be quite cash. So to do the entranceway for it, which at the time I just wanted to get some themes for the buildings out using the existing building templates as opposed to building completely custom ones. So we're going with a sort of elven vibe. The colours I stole from some Tolkien artwork, and the overall sort of feel of the colours and the way that they interact with the wood and the natural coloured stucco was straight out of one picture. But the actual design of the building is completely freeform. I've got into this like building off the grid thing by using several buildings with several grids so that you can get interesting angles and curves and corners, corners anyway. And I just wanted to do loads and loads of weird and wonderful complex roofs, as you can see. It kind of came out alright. I'm quite pleased with the end result, although a lot of it comes from the dressing done right at the end and the detailing. The general look of the building's okay. Like, I'm really looking forward to doing some custom building sets, so you can build them in a sand park and then import them as a customizable building, to save having to build them over and over and over again, of sort of curvy walls and stuff like that. So I don't know if we'll redesign this, but I'd certainly like to come back to this architectural style in the future and get it a bit better. Speaking of such things, I should definitely reference, I've been watching a lot of Silvarret's videos. I'll put a link to him in the video description. He is awesome at custom buildings. I mean, really, really good, and pretty much all my ideas have come from watching his videos, so respect where respect's due. All but a couple. I'll mention the old original ideas when I get to them. Like this intricacy of roofs, he goes for more realistic looking buildings. He uses actual architectural styles as reference points and knows a lot about it. I know nothing about architecture, hence why I thought I'll go with some elven stuff, because you can't really get that wrong because there aren't such things as elves. So this is not like obviously Rivendell-esque elves. This is a little bit fairy tale mixed with a bit of non-Jackson Tolkien, if you get what I mean, like Tolkien stuff before Peter Jackson got involved and stamped his big New Zealand Kiwi boots all over it. And I'm not saying that's bad, he's done a great job with it, I really like his work, but there's other ways of interpreting Tolkien as well, just to say, because it's literature. Anywho, moving on. So we're trimming the roofs at the moment. This tiled wooden roof tile set has a lot of interesting angles. You can do 4 meter slopes, 2 meter slopes, and 1 meter slopes, and I've used all 3 on here, which makes it look quite messy, but never mind. You'll notice the back of the building is completely bare. Now, my original plan, because this wasn't going to be a queue entrance, was to have this sort of semi-realistic backstage area that I've seen Silvarret use. I really like it. It makes it feel more like an actual theme park rather than, you know, an elf village that happens to have roller coasters in it, and the elves demand that you pay money to go and see them all. I don't really know. Maybe it's like a reservation situation. Instead of casinos, we build theme parks. Is that politically incorrect? Probably. Anywho. Oh yeah, doing some custom planking here. I really like planking. I'm getting into it. Not like, you know, photographs of me horizontally levitating, but actual planking with planks. Anywho, I forgot where I came into this. So yeah, we're building stuff. Oh yeah, the backstage area. I still want to do that, but I'm gonna have to hide it better. So because the queue's going to go through this doorway here. I hadn't decided this at this point. Just in case the game decides to prevent me from moving anything or moving something else, get the autosaves and so on. Can occasionally not work, so I'm going to use some normal saves. Right, we're using wooden pillars in the corners here. These ones are bound to the grid, so I'm a bit more restricted with what I can do, but they're a lot quicker and easier to put down than the freeform ones. I do like using the freeform ones a lot. I do a very small amount of this in this episode, but the sandboxes I've been practicing to get sort of architectural styles ready for each of the areas. Some of them are going to involve a lot of custom buildings. Right, so yeah, we've got the general layout of the building now. We've got most of the roofs filled in, most of the walls filled in, just finishing off the corners here. And a little bit of beam work, apparently. I was looking for some eaves to work on this edge here. It didn't really work. I picked up a piece there that, funnily enough, we'll come back to. But oh no, those two works, yeah. I forgot it existed. I did that a few times during this. So yeah, decided this tower was a little bit out on its own. Kind of wanted to get a more rising concentric movement towards the central tower, and it was a bit tall. So I took it off, separated it entirely to make its own building, so it's now free from any grid. Which just means I can turn it around a bit more, change the height really easily, as you can see here, and just get to put it wherever the hell I want. So I really like this sort of move towers around, move bits of the building around. You can separate them out if you want to. I do realise the building is a bit lopsided. There's a lot more attention on the right than on the left. The left ended up with two square edges just from the roof design I did there. Now, hopefully, there's going to be another ride entrance just adjacent to it to the second ride, which I already know what it's going to be, but I'm not going to talk about it until I've got it in motion, because I might change my mind, which I do a lot. So the asymmetry in the visual sort of profile or silhouette of the building, yeah, I mean obviously it's asymmetrical, but you know what I mean. It's not got a sort of concentric rise to it. That should be remedied when the second building's put in. Right, we're gonna get into dressing the walls now. I'd already picked the windows I wanted to use on this because I wanted to get some of those Rivendelian arches. Rivendelian? I'm not sure what the adjectival form is for coming from Rivendell, but never mind. So yeah, we're going to use these archy windows, these sort of Norman arch windows. I realised I actually didn't have any entrances to where I wanted to put some of the actual functional buildings in here, which realistically, now, this is a point I need to get into, is that YouTubers I've watched have got a sort of style to the way they build it. Like, Silvarret goes for theme park realism, but with a fantasy budget. He gets really... realistically, you wouldn't build this castle because you wouldn't make enough money off it, sort of thing. Which is absolutely reasonable that he thinks about it in such detail, but I'm not concerned about such things. The other thing is a lot of his buildings are inaccessible to the public just due to the design work. He puts such lavish designs in and these amazing staircases and stuff that you just couldn't put paths to them. Whereas I kind of want to have the people walking around my building just for the sake of either screenshots or videos or messing around, looking around the park. So to do that, we're going to have to make sure there are reasons for people to be near the buildings, and that the buildings themselves have interactable components such as shops and toilets and yada yada yada. Now, in the previous episode, I did the sort of introductory area, the entranceway, and you'll notice that I'm putting a lot more thought into this episode, so I might go back and redesign that in the future. I've got an idea for how to use its style to connect all of the park together in this sort of sci-fi way, so it feels like this is sort of some futuristic project where they're looking back and they built a theme park on maybe what they thought human history was, you know. Oh, in ancient times, humans worshipped ancient earth, wind, air, and fire, and they built the whole civilizations around it due to this book we read called Harry Potter. No, anyway, so we're going to come back to that maybe. But in the infrastructure, at least people are walking around, there's stuff going on there. I haven't even connected the path here, so it feels really barren, there's no life to it, and I really want the people interacting with, or at least being part of the scenery themselves. Right, so we're getting onto window dressing further up here. Found some nice little Norman arch windows. They don't have the same diagonal crisscross pattern of lead work on them, but never mind. So I wanted to build a little custom eave here, and this is a bit of a I might come back to this. So just to show off that custom eaves are a thing in buildings you can build from scratch, put that one down there as a guideline, by the way. Very useful for rotational symmetry. So we're going to build sort of a little extending part here and a 45-degree angle, so you can get the general idea of the build. I didn't really dress it too much, which is why it looks terrible at the end. But it's more to show the process and how it's done, because I'm going to do quite a lot of this, and this is how the Asian, because it's in the air section, yeah, maybe not, section is going to be built, or has already been built, but will have been built, but then will be used to build. Yeah, like I've built the components, but not the thing. Anyway, so I'd forgotten that I'd already painted some planks earlier. Speaking of colours, don't even get me vaguely hung up on the wooden balconies that I used as dressing on the windows. So the idea is you put the tile in. These planks are really good because they have a slight Z-axis curve on the end. As you can see, they protrude slightly at the end of each plank, so you can make these fake tiles with them. You'll notice that it looks bad because A, the colour's slightly off, which is really hard to do because it's a different texture to the wood on the wooden tiles, and B, the inset, so that green axis that I've moved it on there, I've done it so that the planks don't protrude through the tiles on the other side, but it means that the whole thing's off dimension. Looks really quirky if you look at it up close. The general idea is there. But what's really entertaining is I build all this, so that's what, like, probably 100 odd planks. Quite taxing on the graphics and so on, and CPU, I think. And then I was trying to dress it, and I was like, no, this bit's bound to a grid. Oh yeah, I can make the grid smaller. No, it's still on the wrong grid. What's this piece? I found this earlier. Oh, it's exactly what I needed. Oh, and the colour's alright and stuff, but I put all that effort in, so we'll just pretend it doesn't exist. And maybe later we'll smack it on when nobody's looking. Anyway, the idea was just to give a bit of an extension to that main eave entranceway. So you can see I've decided that I'm going to go straight through this building. It's going to be a Q entranceway, or at least I thought I wanted to use it as an archway. Any second now I'm going to make the decision. So yeah, there's the colours with the balcony problem. I had them right when I first put them in, and then I changed the lighting for some reason or another. Obviously clicked on them again and changed them back to some other colours by mistake. And I think I might have even lost the natural beam colour in the middle beam, the vertical beam in the middle of each wall. Anyway, lot of trying to get it back here. Gave up in the end. Right, so don't like those. Get rid of that. Yeah, this is slightly better. So now we've kind of worked out, yep, this is going to be a right entrance, so let's whack a sign up on it. The western signs are quite nice because they've got a bit of sort of ornate woodwork to them. For some reason I can't get the colour to match on this sign at all. I mean, the stonework on those windows is garish enough as it is, because again, different texture to the wooden tiles, so you can only get it close. But the thing on the picture that I was working as a reference from is that there were only 3 colours to the entire building. You had a natural wood colour, quite a bleached natural wood colour, which I've sort of got here. Although the eaves are all off on the roofs, but never mind. A sort of natural creamy white colour to the walls, which I just used the default stucco colour, because it saved me having to worry about changing it. And then the green. So this is my favourite thought. I discovered this whilst messing around and was like, yes, this is brilliant, this will totally work, I'm going to dress the whole building in it. No way, it'll look ridiculous if I put the whole building in, but maybe we could do the entranceway. I'm so pleased with this. I've seen people build fences out of it. Cucamonda build a fence out of it for a spooky park, which is really cool. But being able to use it to sort of just solidify this elven theme And it suddenly occurred to me, yeah, foliage is going to make this look good. And we're going to use this sort of architectural foliage style with these spooky tree branches, lots of ivy. I think there's a good... Well, I mean, this is sped up 8 times, so there's probably an hour's worth of ivy placement and dressing with foliage here, but never mind. Anyway, we're going to get all this foliage in, and it's certainly going to make the building look a lot better and hide my terrible roof. Slightly. Only slightly. We're going to have to change that, aren't we? So these ivy pieces are spectacular. You put a line to surface on, you can rotate them around, and they fit in everywhere. Sorry, I went away from the microphone there. They fit on roofs, everything. You'll notice, though, that at the edge of each roof that I've used one of the roof trims for, they don't fit on those, so I've had to manually place a couple so that there isn't like an unnatural break like there is in the middle tower at the moment, for example. And on that second from the right tower is a really good example of it there, where the ivy sort of grows through the roof somehow. Now I know the ivy's not on top of the windows, and it should be, but it feels more natural with it clinging to the wall, so there's a manual placement there just to break that up a bit. They're not as bad as you think, the manual placements. The rotational buttons and stuff, once you get used to the keys on it, which I still stress out with every now and then because I get them wrong, but never mind. So this is something I've seen a lot of other people do. I really like it. Sink bushes in. I decided to just use one colour of bush because I like these white flowers. Seemed very elven. I hadn't got much white in here, actually, so that was one of the reasons I wanted to get these bushes in. But the idea is you sink them on the Z-axis slightly, and then you can place them inside the buildings and sort of just poking out so that they look like they're growing in the corners of the structure and stuff. It's hard to see when you've actually got them selected, but when you deselect the building afterwards, the bits that are inside the roofs and stuff mean that there's only a tiny bit of these flowers showing, and it looks like they're sort of snuggled into the nooks and crannies. Got a bit carried away on the right hand side here, I think. Maybe a little more on the left needed, but never mind. So yeah, a bit more ivy, just finishing off. There's so many roofs, like so many roofs. I don't know, maybe 20 different surfaces to cover, and I'm only doing the front, so just make this arch a little bigger. I like this arch a lot. It's like witchwood or something. Yeah. So we'll get them in there. It just occurred to me, I haven't put any lights on this building at all yet. Not one. Oh well. Bit more of the peace bloom in there. Anyone get the reference? So we're going to put the toilets and the buildings in now. I've got a burger stand and a drinks Slurpee energy drink, I think, or possibly just Slurpees. Sorry, Gulpy Slurpees or something. I was seeing whether we could maybe get a tree growing out of the building itself, but it sort of broke the skyline. So put some trees around the edges here. I'm going to use sycamores and oaks mainly in this area. Just to keep a colour palette consistency. I wanted sort of earthy, natural tones. We've got that sort of yellowy tint on the sycamores just to break up the oak's natural colours. I think we're going to use that witchwood a lot more. Like, not on the building necessarily, but other places. Right, so now we're going to start on the coaster. So the coaster for this, I've already decided, as said earlier, is going to be a family coaster. So the one I'd built originally, and then had to delete because the damn platform got stuck. You see, I'm putting the platform down. It's never going to move, okay? It stayed there forever. It was the same coaster type. It's called the Forest Dragon. It's a really, really long train, but doesn't have much in the way of inclines, no inversions whatsoever. It does, however, have this interesting cable lift curly hill thing that you can do that took me about half an hour to get right. So while that's going on tediously in the background, sorry about the dizzying camera work, but I try to get it smoothed out as well. But the problem is the gantries. If you were to be able to remove the catwalk, which maybe I could actually, then it would look a lot more smooth. But for whatever reason, there's this weird twist in the gantry. You can see at the bottom of the gantry there's another one. Look at it. It's so bizarre. You see it? Yeah, so I was trying to get rid of that by being really smooth, and it just takes so long, and it ended up being giant. Anyway, the idea is that it's a forest dragon, right? You saw the name at the beginning, and it's a dragon, and it's going through a forest. We're going to put a forest in here afterwards. There's no forest yet, so it's just a dragon. So maybe we'll do a dragon ride for each area. So we'll have like the celestial, the air dragon, the fire dragon, the earth dragon, the water dragon. Yeah, I like that. I think we're going to do that. But maybe they're not all actual dragons. Like, anyway, the Earth one, very friendly, family friendly, doesn't want to be too exciting or thrilling or definitely not too nauseating. So it's worth noting, I know very little about actual roller coaster design. I've watched a couple of videos. but I'm not going to claim I'm an expert. Oh yeah, I tried to move this here because I was then going to be able to hide a lot of the rear facade of the building. The rear of the facade, sorry. But as soon as I started to put down paths, I was like, oh god, no. I built it around the existing paths. We'll just put it back. So I'm going to have to build a whole theming area leading up to the park. We'll get to that later. Anyway, yeah, I'm not doing realistic coasters in the sense of that I know anything about how coasters work or who builds them or that sort of thing. All respect to the guys that do and put that into their videos. I mean, that's a serious amount of effort. I think that's very cool, but I just don't have the knowledge and or time or patience. I'm doing this just because I want to build crazy roller coasters and cool settings. So this one, you know, it's got some realism in the sense that I've got this little pre-drop hill here, the curvy helix thing, to get it off the cable so that it's less stress on the cable, but also so you get a smoother actual drop. I had to redesign it a few times because it was a bit quirky, but never mind. And I'm using things like overbank corners and considering how the roller coaster rides if you were riding on it, but I have no concerns about the engineering, the costs, whether you can actually do this with this type of roller coaster, whether this is acceptable roller coaster building behavior or anything. I have no idea. So yeah, this took quite a while. There's a bit of an issue with the fact that you can only go to 60-degree banking, you can only do a certain amount of incline, decline, and you can only do about a 90-degree corner at a turn in a 2-block length, sorry, so you're very restricted in the motion of the roller coaster. But the idea here is I wanted to have it like the dragon is weaving its way through the forest. We're going to put the trees in afterwards because it's much easier. The first time I built one, I built it around the trees. I did it, and it was very cool to ride, and I put all these lights in the trees and stuff, so it looked really groovy. But you didn't really get any enjoyment out of it. This is my personal favourite section of the roller coaster, although it is, for a while, the highest nauseating factor. Later on I fix it, but is this bit where you're banking opposite to the way you're turning, so it's like a hill but at 45 degrees or nearly 60 degrees to the ground. So you get this really odd combination of negative vertical G and lateral G at the same time, which just jacks that nausea rating straight up. So we'll fix that later. Turns out that helix I've just built is going to be the biggest problem in the entire roller coaster. I never quite fix it. Because the thing's still got quite a bit of speed down here. It's doing like 35 miles an hour through that, which for a roller coaster this long, I think is probably not, I've discovered, is probably not the best way to do it. So anyway, we're going to get it sort of weaving through the forest here. I realized I wanted to build my sort of exit section. This I've learned a lot about from real roller coasters, and I still managed to get it wrong at least twice. So the idea is you have a block section on a slight decline, so the train resting in it can then just roll off the block brakes when they're ready and then get caught by a drivetrain. Now I forgot the drivetrain. I moved away from the microphone, sorry. I forgot the drivetrain, and the incline isn't long enough because the coaster's so long. So I don't know whether you see it on camera, but for a while when I was testing it, I was like, this test is taking a long time and I'm not getting results. And it's because the roller coaster had been parked at the block brake station for about 25 minutes. Most thrilling ride ever. So yeah, we worked it out in the end and fixed the incline and put the drivetrains in, and I can actually have 2 trains out there. I must remember to slow down the chain lift though, because at the moment there's a 25-second wait at the top of the chain lift for the first train to get back into the station. So if we just lower the train lifts, the cable lift section at the beginning of the coaster's speed, that will have less time up there. There's a bit more time sort of going up and waiting for it to happen. Maybe I'd worked it out by now. No, I don't think I had. I'm not going to do what they call transfer tracks, which are basically spare train storage sections. This park is open 24/7. All right, well, 23:45 out of 24 because it's just easier to have it closer, 15 minutes. But it's in the future, so, you know, maintenance on roller coasters and stuff, much easier. Foliage self-waters itself. We don't have to think about the realism and anything like that. Also, this is, you know, sort of a slightly magical theme to everything, so if anybody complains, it's magic and science, bitches. So, yeah, now we're working on smoothing the whole thing out and looking at where areas are creating nausea, such as my ridiculous... Did you see it spike there? Yeah, look at that deep red section. I love it. I did manage to get it back down to a reasonable degree after a while. And I'm very pleased with the result of the roller coaster, considering it's a family roller coaster, has no inversions, and it's a really long train, which makes it very hard to get smooth. Now this helix, no matter what I do, doesn't work. So something to bear in mind is when you use the smoothing tool, it will normally reduce curves and heights quite aggressively. This is where I worked out the block section wasn't working. We'd send the roller coaster back down the track backwards. So you've got to make sure you build your stuff with the smooth tool in mind. So you've got to build things a little bit bigger, a little bit wider than they'll eventually be, so that when you use the smoothing tool, everything gets trimmed a bit, and that's okay. It's still going quite fast at this last section, so I had to work a lot on banking that. And it's actually only off camera when I've ridden the roller coaster 6 or 7 times. I'm like, oh god, it's still violent down here. Anyway, we're going to do that all off camera. When we come back next episode, we are going to work on probably theming the coaster. We might start on the second coaster section, but I should imagine that getting the cues in and so on and so forth is going to take most of the time. There it is coloured in. Isn't that nice? Colour the trains in as well. And now it's a forest dragon, see? So yeah, we're not going to do a POV of it until I've at least dressed most of it to hide it. There's a rogue bit of catwalk off on the left there, but never mind. Ooh, aggressive transition. So yeah, we will finish that off next episode, hopefully, if I don't get distracted by something else. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit the like and or subscribe button below. Do feel free to leave any comments with feedback and so on and so forth. Not that many people are watching this, but whatever. Anyway, see you next time.